Hi, today we are here with Jessica, who's our BBO tutor, here to share some insight on what British Biology Olympiad is, how to prepare it, what are the difficulties in obtaining a significant award that will be useful for your university application. Thanks for your time, Jessica.
Thank
you
you.
could briefly introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, my name is Jessica, and I am a tutor for British Biology Olympiad.
So, the first question, what is British Biology Olympiad and who is it for?
British Biology Olympiad is an exam that assesses biology more than high school levels, and it is for pre-university students, usually around the age of 16 to 18.
Okay. I'm assuming because the word Olympiad is, hinting how it's quite difficult. In terms of, let's say, level difficulty and also the syllabus covered, how is it different to A-level, IB, or AP students? AP student, AP biology. The curriculums, the curricula that age group students study at school.
The syllabus for BBO is actually beyond the syllabus for A-levels, AP, and IB biology, but all the bases would be the same for all three curriculums. Still, it just assesses a little more logical thinking skills using the original knowledge using A-levels, AP, and IB curriculums. So BBO usually does quite cover all the ranges for IB and beyond.
And beyond.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the beyond. Is there any topic that stands out to be significant in the competition? Or is there like a topic that doesn't appear in either of IB, AP, A-levels?
Yes. All the topics that appear in BBO are usually cell biology, animal physiology, plant biology, ecology, microbiology, but all these 5 topics do appear on A-levels, AP, and IB, but ethology, animal behavior, those are not usually studied in IB, so that would be a little bit tricky for those who take BBO without studying ethology beforehand.
Okay, so there's a topic within the subject biology called ethology, which is animal behavior.
Yes.
So that's not covered. What about the general question types? In IB, A-levels, there's like multiple choice, short answer questions, even long answer questions. And they're fairly straightforward. You have to memorize things and just regurgitate what you have memorized. What is it like for BBO?
BBO, they don't assess any long answer questions, but they do assess short answer questions and multiple choice questions. But it's a little bit different because some of the multiple choice questions require 2 or more answers, and they don't give the amount of answers that the students have to choose. So it really acquires a lot of knowledge because you don't know how many answers there are.
Wait. Let's just pick up on that point. The question doesn't specify how many answers there are?
Yeah, so for example, if there is a choice from A to H, they don't give how many choices are correct. For example, it can be
options.
Yes,
Okay.
It can be 1 answer that's correct.
Okay.
It can be 5 that's correct, or it can be all 8 that's correct. So it really depends on which question, but you have to understand all the details fully, and you have to keep it in mind in order to get them all correct.
Well, that's really a nasty question.
Yes.
You either know really well or you don't.
Yes,
Okay.
but one point that's not that bad is that they can give some half marks. So for example, if that's a 3-mark questions and you get half of them correct, you might get 1 or 2 marks for that question, but not a full mark.
Oh, so we wouldn't refer to this question type as like a multiple choice because multiple choice is making 1 answer out of like 4 or 5 options. This one's like a bit like checkbox question.
Yeah,
where you can
more like
have multiple ticks. So why should students take this difficult, nasty question competition? What's the benefit of, let's say, being recognized, awarded in this competition?
Many students aim for the participation in International Biology Olympiad, IBO, because if the students achieve a high grade in BBO, then they would be given a chance to represent the UK and go to IBO. That would be a really big motivation for many students. But other students also take BBO for university application because it absolutely boosts their applications and personal statements as they participated in Olympiad. And even if they got a higher grade, that's going to even help their application skills as well.
That sounds like more of a realistic issue because I think there are only a handful of the gifted biologists who can actually participate in the International Olympiad.
Yes.
Okay, so university applications maybe. Okay. Obviously, subjects that require strength in biology like biology, biochem, medicine, and so on.
Yes.
Okay. What are the competition awards like? How are you ranked? How are you graded? And what's like a, regarded as a good award to, aim for?
I would say gold and silver would be a good aim because only 10 to 15% of the participants would receive a gold award, and another 10 to 15% would be awarded as a silver award. And beyond silver, it's bronze, and there's also participation awards as well. But if a student wishes to really assess their skills and get a high grade and use this in their personal statements, I would recommend the gold or silver award.
All right, so if you want to really boost your university application with on recognition award in BBO, you need to achieve at least the silver.
Yes.
Really, realistically, the name Olympiad suggests it's supposed to be competitive. Realistically, let's say you're a top grader in A-level, IB. So A star, 7 in IB, AP, 5. Like, is it easy? Is it difficult? Like, how much effort do you have to input for BBO performance when you're like a top performer in, IB, AP, A-levels?
As I said, that BBO contains a syllabus beyond IB, A-levels, and AP. Even though they get a top grade in those curriculums, students still have to spend quite a significant amount of time in order to prepare for this exam. But still, I would say they would be able to achieve probably at least the bronze if they do spend a little bit time to prepare and learn what kind of questions they would get. But if they spend a little more time and try more past paper questions, understand the question types, and spend more time in this exam preparation, then it would be much easier than any other students to get a higher award.
Let's try and quantitatively evaluate that amount of efforts we need to put in to go beyond bronze. Okay, so let's start with assuming that the competition takes place in, halfway through your year 11 worldwide or year 12 UK education system. From when should you start preparing?
I would say probably 2 to 3 months before the exam begins.
Okay.
Because since we are continuing this alongside our schoolwork, we can't spend realistically more than 2 hours each day or even an hour and a half each day. So when you think you study an hour and a half each day, I would say try questions for probably 45 minutes and then analyze your mistakes, understand and learn the new topics that you got wrong and move on. So that would be a realistic plan of spending at least 1.5 hours each day alongside your schoolwork and preparing for probably 2 to 3 months before the exam.
Okay. And I'm assuming you don't want to go beyond 3 months because obviously you need to build up some biology at year 11, beginning of year 11 or 12 for the UK system. Okay. And how should you prepare for BBO? Like, what resources can we think of?
There are books, for example, Campbell Biology, or just using textbooks to begin with. school textbooks.
School textbooks, like
Yes.
A-level textbooks.
Yes.
Okay.
And then move on to Campbell Biology or other biological textbooks that are quite common in the very first year of university.
That's where you're mentioning the word Campbell, right? Campbell, I seem to remember I've seen a lot of that name in university textbooks.
Yes. There's also past papers, that the BBO official past papers on the website. So that's something that students can use as well. Other resources could be just online resources. They do have some sort of questions to some platforms, but many students don't often use the platforms. So past papers would be the best option for questions to practice on. And learning the syllabus itself would be Campbell Biology and school textbooks.
And I agree, past papers I think is always the best resource when it comes to preparation for any exam. Are there sufficient, let's say, load of past papers available online, like in the BBO official website?
Not really, because BBO only have probably 3 to 4 years of past paper, but they don't upload anymore. So there's not enough past papers fully uploaded on its official website.
So it sort of needs to rely on like your school, who
Yes.
probably should have been accumulating these past papers. Okay. And you mentioned that you can refer to like A-level textbook, IB textbooks. Is that because halfway through your year 11, year 12 for UK, you wouldn't have covered all the syllabus, so you need to pre-study?
Yes, you always have to learn all the contents for at least year 12 and year 13. But if you...
UK.
Oh yes, UK here. So that's why I mentioned about the school textbooks. You always have to learn them fully and then move on to Campbell Biology, unless you're not going to understand much of the contents there.
Okay, so it's a bit of effort having to study ahead, and if you really want to, excel, show off in your university application, there's a big commitment where you have to study ahead of your school and your classmates. Okay. What are some common mistakes that students make in BBO, and how can students avoid such common mistakes?
The most common mistake students make is not understanding the difference between school exams and BBO itself, because school exams, students can actually rely just on memorization, because many do require memorization and only past papers. But BBO, you can't only rely on memorization, because it actually requires you to apply your knowledge and use many different knowledges together in order to come up to one conclusion. So that is the most common mistake that students make. Another mistake is not reading the question properly. It's not only for BBO, but students often just skip some of the words and then understand it the way they wish to understand. So that is a really big mistake that students make.
Okay. Any final tips for those aiming for gold? Or the highest ranking in the competition?
If the students haven't gone through the syllabus, the school curriculum, then I would always recommend to start early, because that will take a long time to just go through the school curriculum. Understanding their mistakes always whenever they make one. Learning from that is important. A lot of practice using past papers or other online sources would also be helpful. Also, just going back through their mistakes after they finish their revision would also be a helpful tip.
Okay. And just for those of you who are outside the UK, where school teachers aren't as, let's say, leading the class cohort to participate in BBO, you can actively request your school teachers to have you registered. There's no you cannot participate because you're outside the UK. There's no such restrictions. So if your school teacher doesn't bring up BBO, you can always, stand up and actively request participation. It's open to everyone.
Absolutely.
Great. We hope that today our insight on the British Biology Olympiad have been very useful, so that you can aim high and actually achieve high for ultimately for your university applications. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.